So I am an aspiring beekeeper. I've spent the last couple of years reading and doing research on beekeeping, so I'm not going into it blindly. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out what I want to do already, but I haven't got any hands-on experience, and that's what I'm really excited to get into now. I put a deposit on a nuke of bees. I'll be picking those up this spring, so I've got a couple of months and I'm in the planning stages. So I don't know where I'm going to put my hive yet. I've narrowed it down to two options. I have a large pasture, which I'm standing in right now. It's almost 2 acres, and it's in the front of my house. And then I have a wood line at the back of my house that is option number 2. And there's pluses and minuses to both. And so, okay, so right here is option number 1. This is the front of my pasture. I would put the beehives probably right along the front up here. I'll sweep the pasture. I'm a long way, I'm about 400 feet from the road up there and a couple hundred feet from my neighbors, so this should be a good spot. There's a lot of pluses to this pasture. The biggest one is that I only cut it once a month with a bush hog, whereas the back of my house and around my house I cut with a belly mower on my tractor, and I keep it finished cut. So I cut it every week. So out here it would be very easy for me to till up a pretty large area and plant all kinds of pollinating, insect friendly wildflowers, whatever else I can find, sunflowers, that would be really good for the bees, and I wouldn't have to worry about messing up part of the yard which I keep finished. I have blueberry bushes, 6 of them right up there. I have a bottle brush tree right over there on the other side of the fence. And right on the other side of that fence is the part of my yard which I keep finished cut. I have another smaller pasture over on the other side. My driveway follows between these 2 white picket fences. Another positive would be that the sun comes up. This is east right here. So east would be, if I do a 180, basically east would be facing right at my beehives. So they would get some very early morning sun, and they would have sun. Those are the biggest positives, are the early morning sun and the fact that I don't cut up here very often. It'd be easy to plant wildflowers. And there is a lot of room. Now some of the negatives, there's some negatives. One of the biggest ones is the wind comes off that pond down there in the distance, and it whips up over my next door neighbor's pasture, which is kind of a rise, and there's always wind up here. It's not windy. I'm in deep south Mississippi, so it's not like we have wind all the time, but if there is wind, it's right here. And it's always breezy. It may not always be windy, but it always has a breeze up here. So that is a definite negative, the wind. The other negative is if we have severe weather, rain or whatever, then this area does get hit pretty hard with wind. Usually coming out of the south, which is right that way, coming right over that pond and up over that hill. So that's the biggest negatives to this area. But the positives are, pretty significant. There's and I should mention, there's already tons of clover in this pasture. All these green patches, see, it's everywhere. Plenty of clover for the bees. So there is that as well to consider. So I'm going to take a walk to the back, and I'm going to show you option number 2. And see what everybody thinks. So this is the back half of my yard. Now it's not near as wide as the front. My property kind of slims off in the back, and it's starting to sprinkle, so I don't know if I'll be back here very long. But positives and negatives. Sorry about the brush pile. I had to clear a fence line, and I haven't had a chance to burn it. It's been too wet. But the bees would basically go right, almost where that brush pile is, maybe right behind it, close to that wood line. So a big positive to back here is that the wind gets blocked. The wind and rain is blocked a little bit by that tree line in my neighbor's pasture, because it comes out of the south off that way, and that tree line will block some of the weather. And so it's not going to be as bad back here as far as wind goes. So that's a pretty big positive, I think. I guess another positive is you do have this wood line, and it would be easy to give them plenty of shade in the late afternoon, so that would be convenient. Another positive is that both my next door neighbors have large pastures, 7 plus acres, and they rarely ever cut them. They bush hog them every great while. So there's always weeds and everything else growing in it, but I would not be able to plant wildflowers back here. I would still plant those up front, and the bees would just have to make the trip. So negatives, one of them is that I cut this area every week. This is a part of my yard that I keep finish cut. This and all the way up to my house. Another negative to back here is the closest water source is a creek back in the woods, probably 100 yards. And up front, the water source is the horse trough, which is probably 100 feet from where the honeybee hives would be, maybe even less than that. Another negative could be the tree line itself, the woods. I don't know if woods are a good foraging area, the woods down here, at least for the bees. There's probably not a lot back there as far as for pollinating. There might be some blueberry bushes back or blackberry bushes back there. I'm not even sure of that. So the woods themselves might not be a positive. And also raccoons, there's always raccoons back here on this back half of the property close to these woods. So I don't know if that would be an issue either. So those are my two options. Think about it. If you're experienced beekeeping, like I said, there's no right or wrong answer, but I would love to get some opinions and some input on what other people think, because it could definitely have some sway in my opinion, because I'm just really up in the air on it right now. Thanks for watching. Look forward to the feedback.